Another season is upon us. Freshmen arrive wide-eyed with dreams of future glory, while seniors prepare for their last chance at immortality. There are only a handful of these opportunities in a man's life, a handful of chances to distinguish yourself from the rest. It's on these fields where history is made, where legends begin and heroes triumph. Traditions tell the story of what you represent, of those that forge the legacy you uphold. When you come charging out of the tunnel, 100,000 people will be watching your every move. How you respond to that pressure is what defines you. These are the moments that reveal your toughness, your determination, and your pride. The Roughnecks on the Sooner Schooner. Ralphie charging out of the gate. And Chief Osceola planting his spear. The time has come. Your time is now.
You know, when I was growing up in southwestern Ohio, my parents always told me that sometimes good things come to those who wait, and we waited for quite some time for this to happen, but we finally have 138 schedules fully revealed. Conference USA, thank you for taking your sweet time, but we finally made it here in this spot. But most importantly, we have ourselves a little bit of a CFB Red Zone special here tonight. We're going to go ahead, do a team draft, and then we're going to see how this is going to either age like fine wine or age like fine milk that you forgot about in the back of your refrigerator when we're looking back on this, maybe this time next year. So very excited to do that. And we also have a special guest, my main man, more college football. And you can see his handles like down below for Twitter and YouTube as well. My guy, how you doing tonight? It's good to finally put a face to the name.
Appreciate you having me, Jake. Great to talk to you again, Reed. And it's always great to talk college football. We turn the calendar to May tomorrow. I'm fired up.
Yeah, absolutely fired up. May is just around the corner. We're closing in on finding some game times from week 0 for week 3. And it just makes me feel fantastic. You know, finally something to talk about aside from the complete debacle that is the Brandon Sorsby situation. So I'm glad that we can put a little bit of distance between that. And I hope you guys are excited here tonight. And if you are, make sure you go ahead, do a couple of things real fast. Not only hit that like button and subscribe button for me as well, but if you're watching on Twitter in particular, make sure you go and check this guy's stuff out real fast. Dude just eclipsed over 1,000 followers. Dude is quickly making his way up, man. So, you know, got to show him some love. He's got some pretty cool stuff. And he keeps me grounded in terms of how many days we have left. So, I mean, the counter is such an underrated appreciation. I just want to make sure you understand that.
Well, we had 121 days, I think. So, but who's counting, right?
I mean, 120 something days too much. You know?
Yes. It can't come soon enough.
Which is the same thing that I say about the Conference USA. So this time, these folks did not decide to go ahead and put in the conference version of a league office of the U up text, right? You know, last time that they set their schedule up, they sent it out at 11:30 at night. I was already in bed because I'm already getting old, you know what I'm saying? And I wake up and I saw this schedule of Louisiana Tech on it. Well, lo and behold, and I think 99% of us knew this, La Tech was not going to be a part of this conference. They never were. So finally, they got things settled on that end, and we have a real schedule. And guys, I'm very fascinated by how the Conference USA is going to turn out this year. It might quietly be one of the more chaotic conferences that we see this year.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think top to bottom, it could be one of the most competitive conferences. I project a few teams to stand out at the top, as we've talked about before, Jake. I'm curious to see what Mike thinks about this, but I think top to bottom it could be very competitive.
Should be a fun conference. I love that they brought in weekday CUSA, kind of a ripoff of Maction, but you can never have too much weekday football. So top to bottom should be fun. I think love that Delaware is in year 2 now. They don't have this like ban anymore on playing for a championship. So yeah, love it. I was hoping Louisiana Tech would play 23 games, but I mean, that was wishful thinking.
Yeah, and you know, I remember looking at the La Tech schedule, and Reed and I, we talked about this like on a previous show. Just taking a look at it, it was technically possible that they could have pulled this schedule off, right? There was a couple of days where, yeah, they have 2 games in one day, but it's only a few hour drive, like in between games, you know. So I mean, there was a pathway to make this happen, but I'm certainly disappointed that you know, we didn't see the La Tech 23 game schedule though. But I know you made a really good point, and I'm glad that Delaware and Missouri State as well is out of his stance, getting out of that transition rule. I think it's the dumbest rule in all of college football that we have right now. Like, I understand if teams are moving downward, right, and having that transition rule because you're coming from, you know, a bigger conference and have like more visibility than some of your conference mates that you're joining. But if I'm moving up and I show right away that I can compete for a postseason spot, whether it's a bowl game, whether it's conference championship, or, you know, in the case for James Madison for much of their first year, a possible playoff spot, right? I should be able to compete for those spots. You know, it never made sense for me to have that transition school for teams that are moving upward.
There's a lot that doesn't make sense in college football. We just make the best of it. But one gripe I have now for this year for Conference USA, we're at 10 teams, 8 conference games. You could have so easily done a round robin with all 9 opponents, and instead you have this odd 1 team out. So maybe they'll fix that next year.
Yeah, and you know what? I appreciate you pointing that out as well. You literally read my mind, because I was literally talking to somebody on Twitter earlier today. You're like, we have a 10-team conference, okay? You know, instead of like going getting blown out to get a little bit of extra money and get embarrassed on national television, it could be a meaningful conference game, maybe in terms of the weekday conference game, right? And it makes it a lot easier to do tiebreakers, right? Because if you have teams that don't play each other, like for these tiebreakers, it just makes it more convoluted and get closer to what happened in the Mountain West last year, or what happened in the ACC most famously last year. So more, I mean, I appreciate you like reading my mind, and I'm sure, Reed, you're probably thinking something similar too.
I was actually going to propose a question to you two. Who could be the next few teams that they potentially add to fix that scheduling quirk?
Ooh. So I have a couple in mind.
Off the dome.
Off the dome. So I'm going to go with probably one is a little bit more of an obvious answer, and then one is probably a little bit more of a dark horse and might not be coming into fruition until a few years down the line. So thinking Tarleton State, I think Tarleton State would be an incredible and would fit right in the blueprint of the CUSA. And then maybe a little bit of a dark horse ad, depending on how the other sports progress, is Central Arkansas. I think Central Arkansas would be an intriguing name to add in there as well, to help add some connective tissue between the teams that are in Texas and New Mexico right now, and connect that to the east part of the of this conference. So I think Central Arkansas, plus they have a really intriguing field. I don't know if y'all have ever seen Central Arkansas's field, but they got like the purple and white stripes on their field. It's like it's like a great value brand Boise State, but it's really fascinating to look at.
It's the Walmart ripoff.
Which ironically, I mean, the headquarters of Walmart sits in Arkansas. So
this is true. This is true. Shout out Purdue Chicken as well.
Yeah, shout out to Purdue Chicken, absolutely. But what about you, man? Like, do you have an inkling in terms of who you think is going to be like a couple teams at this conference adds in the future? Or?
So I have more wishful thinking. I'm a Jersey guy, so I'm thinking like, is there a Northeast FCS team that could be a target? Like they just grabbed Delaware a couple years ago. So one right down the road for me, I'm not saying this is a realistic target, but Monmouth University, the Hawks, they're less than a mile from the shore. They've been playing some good FCS football as of late. Looking in the Northeast, also a school like Rhode Island or Maine that have been, stalwarts in FCS for a while now. Again, there's no smoke. This is just my if I was college football commissioner, who I would hand select. So those are my initial thoughts. Tarleton State probably makes a lot more sense, or Central Arkansas, but wishful thinking.
Yeah, for sure. But hey, let's go ahead and dig a little bit deeper into the schedule and something that we've always done for the other conferences. Since it's been a while since we talked about biggest winners and losers for schedule reveal, didn't think it was going to take this long, but I digress. The CUSA has already gotten enough shade as it is. So how it's going to work is we're going to have like our biggest winner and our biggest loser, and just based on their schedule, it may be a little context in terms of how the team is going to look, just going off of who I think that biggest winner and biggest loser is going to be. So I'm gonna swing it over to my main man, Reed Napper. I know you've been thinking about this for quite a bit since it came into fruition last night. For you, who's the biggest winner for you ever since we saw this schedule drop yesterday?
It's the Liberty Flames.
Jamie
Chadwell, Jake, your favorite coach.
My favorite guy.
Not to talk too much at length about Jamie Chadwell because we have touched on that in the program before, but I think Liberty is the biggest winner just solely because I project them to win every game in the conference right now. If I'm being completely honest, I think they have a real shot to go undefeated in conference play. And they also have a very favorable out of conference schedule. Their only concerning game is at James Madison to open the season. Gardner-Webb, Ball State, and shout out to Coastal Carolina as well. I think Liberty can be competitive in all of those games, if not win them. And I truly think Liberty has a real shot again to go undefeated in conference play. Their bye week falls right in the middle of their schedule, which is perfect, leading up to a road trip down to Kennesaw State, which is going to be a huge matchup in conference. They also open up conference play with Delaware, which isn't a too far of a road trip to open up conference play. Also, Western Kentucky is their second to last game of conference play, which I think is huge to have a massive game at the back end of your schedule like that. So the Flames are my biggest winner for sure.
Yeah, and I have to go the same thing as well in terms of Liberty being my biggest winner for a lot of the reasons that you said. They don't have a power conference opponent that they have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Their toughest opponent might be their first game of the season on the road against James Madison, but that's a team that's going to be in a little bit of a transition. Think they're going to be an excellent team to James Madison Dukes, but don't fully know what that team is going to look like under Billy Napier. I really like the bye split as well. They have a nice split to where they're not playing more than 7 games between a bye, which is something that I've always really enjoyed, especially in this era where we only have one singular bye, unless you played in week 0, which Liberty definitely doesn't. And also for me personally, this Liberty football team, just off of my internal metrics, they have the weakest strength of schedule in major college football this year. Sacramento State and North Dakota State, those two have been a part of the FBS ranks for 5 minutes total, and they put together better schedules that they came up under thin air than these guys who had years to determine decent non-conference opponents, right? So it really sets up nicely for Liberty to have a bounce-back season, but coincidentally for Jamie Chadwell, you had a disappointing year last year. You went 4-8.
Yep. No
excuse for it this year. You had the weakest strength of schedule. You're going to have one of the better teams from a talent perspective in this conference. You got to make something shake.
Without a doubt. I think this has, with the schedule and how it falls out, granted, we just talked about a pre-show, like they play essentially everyone in their conference. So, but I think just how it shakes out week to week, I think it's very manageable for Liberty.
Yeah. So, more, you're a prestigious guest here on our show, man. I'm just curious to see if you're feeling the same way about this Liberty squad, or if there was another team that you were eyeing just in terms of how favorable their schedule looked.
So Liberty, I can't argue the points you guys made on Liberty's schedule. I think it's certainly very favorable. I'm going to call out another one, New Mexico State. And a couple reasons for that. First, they're one of 2 teams that have 2 bye weeks. So we're back to a 1 bye week season this year. But New Mexico State plays week 0. So naturally you get 2 bye weeks. By the way, week 0, they play Florida State. I don't know, but besides Florida
sorry,
opener,
I have to laugh because Mike knows how I feel about Florida State, so I have to laugh at that.
I'm not calling that one, but I'm my eye on it. But aside from the 2 bye weeks, they avoid Kennesaw State. So talking about, you play everybody but one opponent, they avoid Kennesaw State. So I think that's a nice win for them. Looking at just logistics, they only have 3 weekday games. I forget the number, but like most have 4 weekday games, some have 3. New Mexico State has 3. The other piece, they don't have to travel all the way to Delaware. So that's probably one of the furthest trips you can make in the conference. They don't have to go there. So schedule dynamics. Also, like 2 of their last 3 or 4 games are at home. So all in all, New Mexico State is another favorable schedule that I noticed.
Oh, okay. I definitely like how their schedule shakes out for sure. And for me, I have New Mexico State as kind of in that middle of the pack in terms of like strength of schedule. So I think it's definitely navigable. I'm just curious if they have enough talent to take advantage of it, because you mentioned that they have one of the easier paths. Can Tony Sanchez find a way to take advantage of that? Because ever since we saw Jerry Krill lift for Vanderbilt a couple of years ago, this team just has not been the same. So hopefully, this is a year where we see them take that step in the right direction. But I am very curious to see how their year turns out, especially after 2 kind of tough like trips to Florida State and Hawaii. I think that could set them up nicely to be ready to go for conference play.
Yeah, and sandwich in between that, I think it's Mercyhurst, and then they make that long trip to Hawaii. But then there's the bye week before New Mexico, and then conference play. So, not saying the Aggies are going to win the conference, but schedule dynamics, I think they're one of the biggest winners.
Yeah. Now let me flip it back over to you love this New Mexico State schedule, but I know that there's some out there that you just straight up don't like whatsoever. So what was that for you? Who you felt like took the biggest L when we finally got the real CUSA schedule for this upcoming fall?
Yeah, so they released the schedule, and pretty quickly to me, there was one that stood out, and that was Western Kentucky. And just looking at their schedule, just a couple crazy things here. First off, their first home game is not until September 26th. Like, how does that happen? And if I'm a Western Kentucky fan, first home game not until September 26th. Their 6 of their first 9 games are on the road. They open at Nevada. They then go to Georgia, the SEC champions from last year. Go to Georgia. They then follow that by going to Bloomington, Indiana, to take on the defending national champions, the Indiana Hoosiers. So then you get Mercyhurst or whoever as a home opener. Then they're back on the road on a Thursday night, short week, in New Mexico State. They play another Thursday game, Missouri State, who's coming off a bye. And then they have a Wednesday game on the road at Sam Houston. So the schedule doesn't make sense to me for Western Kentucky. So if I'm a Hilltopper fan, I'm a little bit annoyed looking at that.
Yeah, I definitely get it. I believe they only have 5 total home games as well. I don't know if you mentioned that, but like 5 total home games as well. Two playoff teams, and then Nevada, they showed some signs of life as well. I know they're probably going to be seen as the weakest of the 3 FBS opponents. Obviously, Nevada was not a playoff team last year. I remember watching the college football playoffs, so I can confirm that. But Nevada, they showed signs of life in the month of November, so they could be an improved football team as well. And they got to make that cross-country road trip to begin the season. So, I'm not saying that Nevada is going to pull the upset off on Western Kentucky to start the year. But, if you're looking for some spicy upsets in week 0, that would be a place to possibly look at, depending on what we hear out of spring and summer camp for this Nevada Wolfpack squad for sure.
Yeah, it's just I couldn't believe the way the schedule was laid out. One last thing I missed, they have the latest bye week in the conference.
Yeah, so they got a lot of playing to do before they even get some rest. But it's going to be really interesting. It might be a little bit of a warmer take here, but I actually went in a slightly different direction when it comes to who I thought was the biggest loser in terms of his schedule reveal. So I ended up going with Missouri State here. So a lot of talk went about Western Kentucky's schedule, not only on the front end, but on the back end as well. I know on the back end, they play against 2 of the 3 toughest CUSA teams in this conference, at the back end of the season. Plus, obviously, what you talked about with Georgia and Indiana, playing them back-to-back, and they were both in the college football playoff last year. But Missouri State silently might have just as tough of a non-conference schedule as Western Kentucky. We're talking about SMU, for example, and that SMU team, that was a team that finished in the top 25 and one of the better teams in the ACC, could be a conference championship contender there, and by default makes them a playoff contender in their own right in the ACC. Texas A&M, you open the season up in Kyle Field. That might be one of the toughest stadiums in college football to play in as well, and that was another playoff team that, they got bounced in the first round, but hey, Texas A&M, they got a pretty good squad out there under Mike Elko in Kyle Field. Nobody wants to be a road team in Kyle Field. Let's just be real with ourselves right now. And then even their G5 matchup that they have as well. Marshall is a team on the rise, man. We thought Marshall was going to be left for dead after Charles Huff left last year, and he actually ended up being a competitive football team, and I actually think they could have a breakthrough type year. Could be in that, upper third of the Sun Belt, possibly a West Division competitor or East Division competitor for Marshall Thundering Herd. So the non-conference schedule silently it's going to be one of the tougher non-conference schedules. Might just be up there for Western Kentucky. Oh, and then by the way, after that SMU game, which is their fourth game of the year, they have a bye, but then they go through conference play and they don't have a single bye through the rest of conference play. So they finished the year off with 8 consecutive games that they got to play. And by the way, they finish off their 7th game from that bye on the road to Jacksonville State, who made it to the CUSA title. And then the final game of the year for them is Liberty. You get them at home, but it's your 8th game. And we just talked about it. Liberty could very well be playing in the CUSA championship at the end of the year. So Missouri State, they're like Western Kentucky. I mean, shout out to them. That non-conference schedule there is going to absolutely get them ready to go for CUSA conference play. But don't say about Missouri State's schedule either. I actually think they have a tougher one than Western Kentucky, all things considered.
Now, Mike, I promise Jake and I do not share notes before the show. Allegedly. I promise this doesn't always happen, but it just always seems to happen. Jake, I also have Missouri State as my biggest loser. I viewed that I'm not gonna repeat all the points that you just made. I view the schedule in 3 different sections, ironically enough. So the first section is the non-conference, like you said, A&M on the road, at SMU and Marshall. Those are 3 very, very tough out-of-conference games. Then your bye, and then the second section at Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State, the reigning conference champion, and at Delaware. 2 of the more longer road trips within the conference. Then the last section at Jacksonville State, like you said, second to last week of the season, and then home to Liberty, which you're coming off 8 straight games within conference play against 2 of the better teams in the conference. It's Missouri State, and they already have to deal with having to replace their head coach from last season. Shout out to Ryan Beard, but it's going to be an uphill climb for Missouri State, of all things considered. I'm not throwing out record predictions now, but Missouri State, it's gonna be ugly. I feel it's gonna be ugly.
Yeah, and I know you touched up on Ryan Beard as well, leaving this program, and I've been told that at least like from the rest of the staff outside of the head coaching staff, that the staff has improved compared to last year. That's what I've been told from Missouri State fans. I gotta see it to believe it, because I thought Ryan Beard did a pretty good job, leading this transition up to the FBS level, getting them to a winning season, and getting them to play in the coveted Xbox Bowl to go up against Arkansas State. So I definitely have to see it to believe it from that aspect. And also shout out Ryan Beard, alleged friend of the program, So just gotta toss up that one out there. Definitely appreciate him for sure. But yeah, man, I mean, just one of those days where we're just on the same wavelength.
I'll gladly be the contrarian. I'll go with Western Kentucky schedules. Thanks.
I guess that's what happens when you co-host X amount of shows as we have so far. So
yeah, it just comes from hosting the same show with each other like over the span of months, and then we just become just a hive mind. So always appreciate you like being here, man. That's for sure. But I definitely want to hear your thoughts. Those of you that are watching in the live chat, whether you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitter right now, who who you think is the biggest winner or loser from this schedule that has been released. And yes, it's the real schedule. It doesn't have a lot of tech. It's not the like the quintessential U up text that you sometimes get when you're in a situationship. Okay, this is the real. This is a committed schedule for this upcoming fall. So definitely want to hear your thoughts. Anything else you want to say about what the CUSA has going on before we move on to the main event?
Just glad we have a schedule.
We've made it to the mountaintop.
Yeah, we absolutely made it, and it's I'll never forget seeing that schedule and just thinking, oh my God, they finally did it. And I said it audible enough to where like a couple of coworkers like asked if I was okay.
I can remember where I was, the time it was when you texted the group chat. They have an effing schedule.
Yeah, never forget. Absolutely never forget. But let's go ahead and jump into the main event that we have here tonight, and that is gonna be our draft board. So how things are gonna work here for our draft, and just to give a little bit of context, this idea was inspired by my boy like College Sports Crew. Reed, you're going to be hidden for a second. You're just going to have to deal with it. So I actually did this with the folks over at College Sports Crew last year. And as you can see, definitely won that draft last year. So I have proven myself as a certified ball knower. And so this year I decided, hey, as we get a little bit closer to the season, we finally got some schedules revealed across the board. Let's go ahead and bring this to the people, right? So let me just kind of go ahead and let it be known how it's going to work. So it's going to be a 6-round snake draft. So as you guys can see on screen, there's 6 rows for each of us. So we can pick from at least one ACC team and one of the other power conference teams. Then there's a couple of other rows that we can fill. This row right here is kind of like that wild card. If you want to, you could use that for any team that you want. If you want to pick Notre Dame, you can. If you want to pick like SMU, even though you picked Miami, you can do that as well. If you want to pick Penn State, even though you picked Ohio State as your Big Ten team, you can do that. That's kind of how that is generally going to work. And then this final row right here, because I always want to show love to the G6, that is that G6 spot. So how we're going to go ahead and figure out who is going to be that first overall pick.
The classic.
I'm going to get the classic random spinner. Whatever it lands on is going to be the first pick, and then the order is going to be determined from there. So that being said, it was spinning the entire time in the background. So if I get the first pick, it's not because I was blessed with that. It's actually going to go to Reed. So
let's go.
Yeah, Reed's going to get the first overall pick, and then my man Mike Moore from More College Football, he'll have the second pick, and then I'll have the third pick. Then I start the second round with the first pick in the second round, and then we'll just keep going until we fill this entire board up. So that is how that's going to work. So with that being said, the 2026 team draft is officially underway. Reed, you are on the clock with the first overall pick. What you rolling with, my man?
Damn, you stole my thunder. I was about to do the draft chime too. Man. There's a bunch of different directions I could go with here. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's Notre Dame. What are we talking about? Odds on favor right now. I have to. The whitest schedule I've ever seen in my life. It's the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I think they easily could go undefeated this season. 2 of their major games, Miami, BYU. They're easily going to be competitive in both those games. I think they have a real shot to potentially go undefeated, as I said. And again, they only have to make the playoff by being a top 12 team in the rankings. So think that's a pretty good shot. So I'm gonna take the boys from South Bend with the first pick. I trust in Marcus Freeman. They're gonna have a fire under their what. So the boys in South Bend, I'm taking first overall.
And you know what, Reed? We started this draft, and you're already testing my patience. Okay, like you of course you had to go ahead and take my first pick. But it is what it is. I'm gonna bounce back with 2 better picks in Notre Dame, and then I'm gonna end up winning this whole thing. But hey, you know what? It's fine. It's totally fine. But I'm gonna swing it over to Mike. As my special guest man, second overall pick. We see Reed take Notre Dame off the board. Just very curious to see what your mind's at and what direction you're thinking about going.
So first off, remind me, are we conference championships? Are there points for those?
Yes, so I forgot to explain that because I got a little bit excited, right? So, how the point system is going to work is so you're going to get points based on what these teams do throughout the year, right? So, a regular season win, regardless of who you be in a regular season, that counts as 1 point. If you win a bowl games count as getting 2 points, and then if you end up winning a playoff game, that's 4 points per playoff win. Now, if you win a conference championship counts for 5. And then the national championship, if you win that, that counts as 10 points. So a lot of emphasis on making sure you win your conference and national title, or in this case, for Notre Dame, just a national title. So should have explained that at the beginning. I got a little excited to get this going and get this started. So with that in mind, man, floor is yours in terms of who you want to roll with for your second pick.
Yeah, I only asked because there's that little disadvantage with Notre Dame as a pick, so can't get that conference championship. But for my,
I have bigger aspirations. Okay, I have bigger aspirations.
so
It's go
for my
big or
first-
go home around here, Mike. You'll find that out very quick. It's go big or go home.
Well, speaking of big or go home, I'm going the Miami Hurricanes.
Ooh, okay.
Mm.
Going the Miami Hurricanes.
Mm.
So for no other reason than they've been in the ACC for 20 some odd years now, whatever it's been, they've never won the ACC. I
Yep.
think they're going to be a better football team than the one that fell just short to Indiana in the national championship. I think Darian Mensah is a better fit. He brings on his teammate, Cooper Burkhardt, however you say that, from Duke. The schedule, just pulling that back up here, they start on the road at Stanford, but it's the first game of the year, so you have time to travel out there. They end the season with 3 straight home games, so nice little advantage there, potentially leading into the ACC championship. Really, the one tough one is at Notre Dame. So maybe this, Reed, that's the game of the year for us now, Miami Notre Dame, where that could make or break this little competition. But overall, I think this Miami team is going to be right back in the mix. Whether they win a national championship this year or not, I don't know. But like to think they're winning the ACC. They're going to be a contender.
Yeah, man. I mean, I definitely I can see the vision with the Miami pick, and I what's scary about this Miami football team is I think arguably they've certainly made an upgrade at the quarterback position. I think Darian Mensah is better than what Carson Beck was for this football team last year. And I think Mario Cristobal, I think he figures out a way to keep his team more consistent. We saw the incredible highs with what they did in the playoff, as well as beating Notre Dame at the beginning of the regular season, which ultimately was the difference between them going to a bowl game that they might have opted out of and getting that last at-large spot. But for me, man, I had to go with the team that actually won the national championship last year. And we know that this coach is a certified bad man. And what's scary about the team last year and this team, like from when he first took over, I think this team could be better than the 2 teams that he already had in Bloomington, Indiana. Give me the Indiana Hoosiers, led by Kirk Cincinnati, certified bad man, could be considered one of the best coaches in the game right now, man. I got to roll with the Indiana Hoosiers. Those are my boys. Always got to show love to the Big Ten. And I mean, they might arguably have a more physically gifted quarterback in Josh Hoover too. Plus Nick Marsh on that team as well. Like it's going to be scary times. And I mean, I just have a tremendous amount of respect for Kirk Cincinnati as a whole. But I also have respect for this next program as well, since I had the pleasure of getting the roundabout and getting the first pick in the second round. You know what I'm going to go with. It's Reed's favorite football team. Give me the OHIO, man. Shout out to Billy Tuesday, who's sitting in the chat right now. Listen, I think like Ohio State having Julian Sayin coming back, and then also having arguably the best player in college football right now in Jeremiah Smith. I mean, good luck covering that guy one-on-one. Plus, they're one of the few programs in the country right now that just reloads every single year. They send 10 to 15 guys to the NFL. No problem. We got 10 to 15 guys waiting in the wings right now. So I think Ohio State, I think they win the Big Ten championship. and I think that they could very well make a nice run in the college football playoff, depending on what their matchup is. So, we'll see if this ends up like hurting in my face, but I got to roll with the OHIO, man.
So you're not concerned about the schedule?
Not concerned about the schedule. Iron sharpens iron.
Okay.
So
All right.
Ohio State is the most consistent program in college football.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't lost, if you take the COVID year out, they've won 11 plus games in 13 straight seasons. And looking at the schedule this year, it's brutal, but Julian Sain's back. They have a ton of talent back. Ryan Day is still the head coach last time I checked. So that was actually going to be my pick there. So a little bummed.
It is what it is. Be better on the steak. I don't know what to tell you, mate.
So since I can't pick Ohio State and Indiana is taken off the board, I'm playing a little strategy here, and I also have some belief in Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks. And here's why. Oregon has won 26 games over the last 2 seasons, and both seasons have ended with just an extremely sour taste. They got their doors blown off by Ohio State 2 years ago in the Rose Bowl, and then this year in the Peach Bowl against Indiana. Dante Moore, he's back. Dakarian Moore, Evan Stewart, they're back. They just have studs on both sides of the ball. I just think Dan Lanning, he just turned 40. He's just on the verge any year now of winning a national championship. So give me the Oregon Ducks.
Okay. All right.
Don't like it?
You were going to go with Oregon, weren't you?
They were definitely in consideration. I mean, shoot, they were definitely in consideration for my next pick. I think out of the 3 teams we just talked about, that's the best pick from the Big Ten as of right now. I think that's the safest pick. Just based on everything, I think they have the most production of the 3 teams returning from last season. I think Dan Lanning also has a chip on his shoulder from the blowout he took to Indiana. Pause. But I think Oregon has a lot going for them, and I mean, Dante Moore is arguably the best quarterback in college football right now, so I think they have a lot going for him. But because Mike decided to take my potential next pick, I think I'm gonna go with an oddball pick here. So I'm gonna grab this next team just solely before you two have the chance to get them. I'm gonna go with the SMU Mustangs as my next pick. I'm going to grab them because I solely think they are the second best team in the ACC. I think they're going to be playing in Charlotte once again, which it's their 4th year in the conference, and I think they'd make their second conference championship appearance, while Miami, 20 years in the conference, will be making their first. So I'm high on Kevin Jennings. Love Rhett Lashley as a coach. I also like the portal additions that they made. Namely, I think Yannick Smith is going to take over this conference at receiver. I'm really high on him on the outside for this Mustangs team. Defense is reloaded, so I think SMU has everything going for them in the right direction, and I'm happy to take them with my second pick.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I really like that SMU pick. I'm not gonna lie. That was a team that I was considering taking as part of my I guess not necessarily my AC. I guess it would be my ACC slot, wouldn't it? But yeah, that's a real good pick, and I definitely respect it, Reed. Not gonna lie.
Appreciate it. Now, this might be another oddball pick. I actually am gonna shift here from what we've talked about on the show before, Jake, about this team. We actually talked about him on Monday at length because of recent circumstances, but I'm gonna go in the opposite direction. Same conference. I'm gonna go with the BYU Cougars as my next pick out of the Big 12. They have taken I think a pretty decent jump forward ever since the Brendan Sorsby news at Texas Tech. I think they have a legitimate chance now to win that conference. Bear Bachmeier's back. LJ Martin, one of the top running backs, is back. They retained Kalani Sitake through cookie money and whatever other money you want to put out on him from the Mormon community. They retain him at BYU. I think they have one of the easier schedules in the not the easiest, one of the easier schedules in the conference. They don't have to play Texas Tech in conference. So BYU, really, the only game that concerns me is my fellow draftee in Notre Dame. So that really a toss-up there. So BYU will be my third pick. Go Mormons.
Hey, listen, that BYU Notre Dame game, like you're getting a point either way. So, like.
Same with you, Indiana and Ohio State. Yeah.
Yeah, possibly twice. Like that could be two toss-ups for me.
This is true. Yeah.
Which I think they do meet up in the Big Ten championship.
So that BYU defense, I think now with Kelly Poppinga could be even better than last year. I like the pick. I know they lost Jay Hill.
The linebacker's name is escaping me. The one they got out of the portal from
Lafu? Leon Lafu?
Yes.
Out of Texas?
Yep.
Feels like a Texas guy.
Yeah. He came from Cal.
Oh, but it felt like a Texas guy first.
No, but still
Texas, I think.
I think that was one of the most just wasn't talked about drastically additions in all the portal. I think between him and the other Cal linebacker in the Clemson debacle, I think Uolave is one of the better additions defensively in the entire portal this last cycle. So I'm high on the Cougars, man. I'm high on the Cougars.
I like the pick. So team of the news this week, Texas Tech. Brennan Sorsby, he's likely not playing this year. Give me the Red Raiders anyway. Give me the Red Raiders. I was high. So quarterback, yes, that's a concern. I'm going to hold out hope that they're going to figure it out. I don't know what to say. The schedule avoids BYU in the regular season. But I was very high in the running game. They brought in, a couple of running backs. They really, this is Texas Tech. They've invested heavily in the portal. I think this is still an elite team. Now, maybe I don't have them going as far in the college football playoff this year, but I think it's Texas Tech or BYU in the Big 12. So if BYU's off the board, give me Texas Tech.
So you're going with like the Sorsby spread. I love to see it, man. In terms of going with Texas Tech. We gotta trademark that statement too. By the way, that's.
Moneyline Mateer is already off the board, so we might as well take the next best one.
Yeah. That's really the $1 million question. What's the better saying? Moneyline Mateer or the Sorsby spread. That's something that we really need to talk about on this show here tonight.
Moneyline Mateer, because the Sorsby spread could be potentially taken the wrong way. So
fair. All right, fair enough.
I'm going Moneyline Mateer.
Obviously is close though, but man, you take on two picks of Big 12 teams that I like. That's really unfortunate, but that's all right. Because the next two teams I'm gonna pick, because I get 2 picks in a row. We're gonna turn that into 2 future conference champions and therefore 2 future playoff appearance teams. So we'll go ahead and get to work on that. So first, I'm going to be the first one to fill this G6 spot on the board. I'm going to roll with the Boise State Broncos.
Yeah.
Okay. This Boise State football team, I think this Boise State football team going to be a part of arguably the best G6 conference going into this year. I think that they are heads and shoulders the best team in the Pac-12. I would actually be surprised if this team does not play for a Pac-12 championship this year. So you want to talk about really other than the Oregon game, which, if they somehow find a way to go into Eugene and beat Oregon with a team that has quite a bit of continuity, mind you, experienced starting quarterback as well, I'm just saying, it really sets themselves to really have a magical season up there in Boise, Idaho, right? So I'm going to roll the Boise Broncos because of that, get this G6 spot filled out, and I'm going to enjoy the fact that I have unquestionably the best team in the G6, at least based on how things stand right now in that part of the college football echelon. But what I'm also going to do as well is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a team that I think is going to ultimately win the SEC this year. I'm going to roll with the Texas Hook'em Horns, man. I think Steve Sarkisian, he's going to have an incredible amount of talent to work with, whether it's Arch Manning coming back as an experienced starter or whether he's got some guys like Cam Coleman to throw the ball to, which that's going to be such an incredible add. That's going to help Arch Manning so much, just to not have a receiver that will constantly drop balls, because that was an issue with the Texas receivers, and that was pointed out maliciously on Twitter earlier today. And then how about Hollywood Smothers in the backfield? That sounds pretty fun to me. So Steve Sarkisian, he's going to have some big expectations just from the sense of he's got a really talented football team, but there's also no excuses to not make the college football playoff either. So some high expectations down there in Austin, Texas. But I think Steve Sarkisian rises to the moment. I think they get their first SEC title in Texas Longhorns football history. Give me them hook 'em horns.
It's a championship or bust for Texas. So
Without a doubt.
It feels like that every year based on how Texas fans talk, though. So, I mean, like it is what it is.
no, I like the pick, but I was going to go a different SEC team anyway. So give me the Georgia Bulldogs.
Okay.
Mhm.
Give me Georgia. Gunnar Stockton is back. Nate Frazier is back. Georgia's always one of the premier defenses. Kirby Smart, of course, is back. I think they only leave the state of Georgia a few times. The road schedule is not too terrible. They're just year in and year out find themselves in the SEC championship game. I have no reason to doubt that Georgia will not be a contender again. So I'm playing a safe play here. Give me Georgia.
What a position I'm in, because Georgia was the team I was going to take out of the SEC. So I'm at least going to walk up one pick that I know for sure I'm making right now. And shout out to Mike. It's the Penn State Nittany Lions, baby. I had to do it. Come on. The easiest schedule in the conference. Basically, Iowa State 2.0. I'm fully bought into Matt Campbell. You can put out any propaganda on the Penn State football Twitter, and I'm loving it every single time. All the propaganda. I'm behind Rocco Becht, one of the most experienced quarterbacks in the country this season. I think they upgraded at a lot of key positions. They retained at a lot of key positions, namely on the defensive side, linebacker. They were able to retain Tony Rojas, who was the heartbeat of the defense. They retained a bunch of secondary players. I think it's good to have continuity at that position. Offensive line, they still have to work out some things, but the main guys that they project to start were out for spring ball. So I think getting them healthy before the fall is going to be huge. And I'll say it again. I've talked to Mike about this before. I think James Peoples is a sleeping giant ready to awaken at any point. At running back, comes in from Ohio State. He's going to be splitting reps with Carson Hansen in the backfield. I'm very high on James Peoples in this Penn State offense, led by Matt Campbell and Taylor Mauser. So I'm taking the Nittany Lions. Also, that schedule is, I can't overlook it. It's the easiest in the conference by a comfortable margin, in my opinion. So I'm taking my hometown boys. I'm taking the Penn State Nittany Lions.
I can't hate on the Penn State pick. I mean, like you said, the schedule sets up nicely. There's a lot of returning talent, whether it's from Penn State or the talent from Iowa State coming over, the best of the best from Iowa State. Rocco Becht has his offensive coordinator, his quarterback coach, knows the system. He's like a ninth-year starter, so he just has to be healthy. Really, it comes down to USC, Michigan, and maybe the at Washington games. So those are probably the big three games, and Penn State could be in the mix. I don't hate the pick.
Without a doubt. So this might be a hot take for my next pick. Now, I said that Georgia was going to be my next SEC pick, or my SEC pick. I've talked to Jake about this before, and I'm kind of high on this team compared to like other people we've seen on the space before. I'm going to go with the Oklahoma Sooners as my SEC pick, mainly because if they have a competent run game, this will be a good football team next year. They return a lot defensively. I trust Brent Venables to lead a good defensive football team. They were a top 5 unit last year collectively. I think Mateer returning, they upgraded at running back. If their offensive line stays healthy, they upgraded at receiver. So if Mateer finally has some competent receivers other than Satenya, I think Oklahoma is a real dangerous threat in the SEC. Not saying they're going to win the conference, but I think they are very competitive. And based on my estimations, I think they're a fringe playoff team. So I will take that gamble. I will take Moneyline Mateer and the Oklahoma Sooners.
Heck yeah, dude. And I really do like this Oklahoma team, and I'm hoping that John Mateer is healthy as well, because when we saw a healthy John Mateer, he was really special to watch. But after he came back from injury, and I think this was after we saw the post-injury version of John Mateer starting in the Texas game, he just wasn't the same. So I'm hoping that he stays fully healthy because he's a dynamic player to watch. And in spite of having those injury concerns, it's hampered this offensive attack. They still found a way to make the college football playoffs. So I actually don't hate the pick. I don't know if Oklahoma makes it back because they got a tough schedule, but I mean, I like the pick, and I don't think that's ridiculous. I see the vision.
I think it's manageable. I think it's manageable.
It's manageable.
Oh, what to do, Mike? What to do?
So I'm on the fence with two teams, but I'm going to take the year of Lincoln Riley, the USC Trojans, taking USA as my wild card team here.
Good man.
And
good man.
They have Oregon late September, if I recall. So my fate could be either way.
It could be over by week 4.
Yeah. So Jaden Mayav is back. I know he lost a couple of receivers. I still like the wide receiver room as a whole. Lincoln Riley recently said this is the most complete roster he's had at USC. They've been recruiting their tails off. I just think this is the year they're at least CFP bound. I don't know if they're winning the Big Ten, but I think this is playoff or bust for them. So ride or die USC.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's necessarily like playoff or bust because I know that USC is going to have one of the more difficult schedules like in this conference like going into this year. I really love the 2 recruiting classes that they put together, but I know that they have some tough games that they're also going to have to try to figure out how to deal with as well. Between the Oregon game, the Ohio State game, they have Ohio State at home as well. Penn State on the road, that's not going to be an easy one either. I mean, that's probably going to be the whiteout game, right? So that's Penn State.
If Fox doesn't mess it up.
Yeah, good luck. Hopefully they don't mess it up and make it a big noon kickoff. It's a big noon kickoff. I'm going to pimp slap somebody. I'm going to turn a pimp name slip back if the Penn State USC game turns into a noon kickoff. They also have Indiana on the road, and then UCLA. UCLA could be a wild card team in all of this. I'm not going to pick them here tonight. I literally can at this juncture, but like UCLA, like that is not to be a team to be slept on too terribly much. So I mean, USC is an incredibly talented team. I have them as a borderline top 10 team, but man, they got some tough games that they're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, that's the part I was hesitating on, the schedule. And whether it's playoff or bust, I think could be debatable. It's how much more patience is there for Lincoln Riley if this team goes, let's say, I don't know, 9-3 and misses the playoff? Is there a move? I don't know, but I'm banking on the patience running a bit thin. So that's my rationale.
Yeah, and I mean, for a 5th round pick, I mean, I love the upside of USC because I think USC is good enough to win every single game on their schedule. I do have a ceiling for them where they can go 12-0 in the regular season, but I mean, there's some space in there where they can also lose like four games as well, which I personally have as an 8-4 football team, but they got some upside for sure. So it's for a 5th round pick. I mean, it's going to probably raise your blood pressure a little bit watching them play most weekends, but hey, we're going to have a fun time watching it.
Fight on.
All right. So I get the pleasure of being the first person to complete this board because I have the turnaround point. So I got an ACC slot that I still need to fill. I have a Big 12 slot that I also need to go ahead and fill as well. So let me go ahead and get things started here with my ACC slot first. I'm going to go with the Louisville Cardinals. I think Louisville is going to be my team that will ultimately be represented in the ACC championship. I think they play Miami in that ACC title game. First of all, I think Jeff Brom is an incredible head coach. I think he's one of the best head coaches in this conference. And Jeff Brom is the perfect fit at Louisville. You know, there's only a handful of coaches where, you know, you see where they're at and it just fits like a glove between the coach and the place. You know, I think of Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, for example. I think of Mario Cristobal at Miami. Jeff Brom is certainly one of those guys as well at Louisville. So I like their chances in terms of them finishing like 10-2. with an outside shot of finishing the regular season undefeated, because none of their games on their schedule you're looking at and you're saying to yourself, there's absolutely no shot that they win this particular game. There's a world where there's a ceiling, they can go undefeated there. I truly believe that. And I also like the Lincoln Kindholtz addition as well. I think that's a little bit of an underrated addition because he didn't play too terribly much. But you talk about how Ohio State people talk about Lincoln Kindholtz. High character dude, a pleasure to have in the locker room. And he's a good football player, man. He's just he had the pleasure of just sharing a quarterback room with Julian Sayin, who looks to be an NFL level quarterback. He also has the pleasure of sharing a room with Kyle McCord, who ended up in the NFL, and then the same with Will Howard, who also went to the NFL. He's been constantly behind NFL caliber quarterbacks. So not only can Kindholtz gets his chance, and Jeff Brom knows how to coach up quarterbacks as well. So I really like this Louisville football team. I think they make a run at the ACC championship this year. Almost made it, I believe, to the ACC title game. They fell a game or two short, but I think they get it done. They get to the ACC title game. Incredible athlete as well, as Billy Tuesday mentioned in the chat as well. Now, Big 12. You took my two favorites, BYU and Texas Tech. That was going to be my Big 12 title game, to be honest with you. But I'm going to go with a dark horse in a team that I talked about on Twitter. I talked a little bit on the YouTube space as well. Sign me up fully on the year one Colin Klein train. Give me the Kansas State Wildcat. I really like this fit for Colin Klein. He captures perfectly what Kansas State football should be all about. Former Heisman Trophy candidate. He did an incredible job as the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M last year, helping out in the development of turning Marcel Reed more than just an athlete and turning him into a competent passer. So I love that kind of development, and I think he's going to do wonders to help Avery Johnson out as well. And I like the staff that he brought along with him too. Plus, this schedule it's a pretty nice schedule. I'm not going to lie to you. Their first 3 games at home, it's going to be pretty manageable. Nichols, Washington State, Tulane. Really, there's only 4 or 5 games that I think they could lose, but I think they could have one of the higher floors. I have a floor of 7-5 at worst, but at best, I see a team that could sneak it into the Big 12 title game because they have one of the easier schedules in the conference as well. So give me Kansas State. I actually think they finished 11-1. That is the wrong logo. Whoopsies. But yeah, I love this Kansas State football team, man. And I think they could sneak up on some people here in year number 1.
So of your 2 picks there, Louisville was the one that I was tossing around with USC. So that's a solid pick. Louisville's schedule also, just to go back to them for a second, sets up nicely. No Miami on there. No Clemson. Their furthest road trip is to Syracuse. So some schedule dynamics in there for Louisville. Kansas State, scared money don't make, or what's the saying? Scared money don't make money.
Don't make any money.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's a nice upside pick with the other, 2 off the board in Texas Tech and BYU. So I have one more pick, right? So it's the G6 spot. I'm going with a team that I'm very high on.
Mike,
The Hawaii Rainbow Warriors out of the Mountain West.
good one.
I like this Hawaii. In fact, I love this Hawaii team. So they went 9-4 last year. On Christmas Eve, they had that thrilling bowl victory where everyone's celebrating Christmas, and I'm just locked in to the Rainbow Warriors and that rally they had at the end there. Timmy Chang has turned this offense into just something like you saw back when he was slinging it around. Micah Hato, probably butchering the name again, the quarterback, he's returning. Their defense has like 80-something% returning starters coming back. So I think Hawaii is the Mountain West favorite. I think they are a CFP contender. Side note, if you haven't seen it, go to YouTube, watch them tear down Aloha Stadium. It's pretty fun to watch.
A stadium teardown, fun to watch.
It's quite sad, but it's also quite fun. That makes sense. So they've been playing, in this makeshift stadium right now, but they just took that down sadly the other day.
So Mike, just so we know, Mike loves watching things blow up in his free time. Just so we're aware of that.
In the little free time that I have with all these children around, yes, that's what I do.
Listen, I love the Hawaii pick though. I think Micah
Yes.
Alahada, he might be one of the best quarterbacks in the G6. I would put him up there against any quarterback like in the G6. Definitely is a pleasure to watch and really makes the Midnight Hawaii test worthwhile, is it not? I mean, who are we as Americans if we don't stand up and watch Micah Alahada go to work at 1:30 in the morning, you know? So I love the pick, man, for the G6 pick.
I think they definitely have a lot of upside, especially with Alahada returning. I've told Jake this before. I have a long shot Heisman ticket on Alahada. So,
Nice.
if that works to fruition, Mike, Hawaii's undefeated in the college football playoff. So, I mean, good for you. Congrats.
And we're all
Congrats.
happy.
Yeah, congrats. Well, that actually helps me out for my G5 pick because that was not one of the teams I was considering. So that's good. I'm going to go with the team that has a ceiling of 11-1, undefeated in their conference. I'm going to go with the New Mexico Lobos
Okay.
as my G5 pick. Now, I know Jake and I have talked about it before. Jake is higher on UNLV. If I'm not mistaken, he has UNLV potentially undefeated, winning the conference. But I think New Mexico has a lot going for them. They're the highest rated team for me in the conference, the most returning production by a wide, clear margin in the conference. They're ranked 21st in returning production nationally, which is clear in the conference. The next closest team is Air Force at 37th. And then there's a drastic drop off. So I think New Mexico has a lot returning for them. I think their schedule is very favorable. The one concerning game out of conference is at Oklahoma. So against a fellow team, love for the game. But the Lobos, man, Jason Eck, one of my new favorite coaches in all college football. I think last year was just a stepping stone for what New Mexico could be under his leadership. And I think I'm really just looking for that week 7 matchup against Hawaii, Mike. So let's go. Let's fight. Let's go.
Come
Yeah,
on.
well, make it interesting. But I love
Finish
Jason Eck.
him!
I mean, how can you root against Jason X? So I guess that week I'll have to, but otherwise, solid pick.
Yeah, and I didn't realize this fully until I started doing previews for each of these teams, like in the very beginning of the springtime. But one of his kids is on the team, and he was an all-conference linebacker as well. Jackson,
Yep.
first team All Mountain West player last year.
Stood out in that bowl game against Minnesota. Yeah.
Probably should have won that game against Minnesota too, if we're being honest with ourselves.
Yeah. The only thing that could hold back New Mexico is if Jack Lane, the returning quarterback, throws another 10 interceptions. As long as he cleans that up, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for the Lobos. So that I'm taking the risk.
Yeah, and if anything else, like he at least brings back you like starting experience. So hopefully he does like clean it up.
Yes.
Not as risky as the Sorsby spread though.
Or Moneyline Mateer.
Or Moneyline Mateer. But hey man, this wraps up our little draft team draft that we have here. Went through all 6 rounds. Looking at this board, anything that jumps out to you in terms of maybe like teams that thought we were going to draft but didn't end up happening, or teams that did end up getting drafted that maybe went earlier than maybe you originally expected?
I was kind of surprised none of us took Michigan, which I mean, personally for me, I'm kind of surprised. I was kind of,
I mean, for me, like I had like Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon's my top tier, and then after that, it was between Penn State and Michigan. So if I didn't get Ohio State and Indiana, if I needed a Big Ten team, I mean, it'd probably been one of those two. I'm happy that they have an actual adult in the room though, because Ron Moore was clearly holding them back the last couple of years.
True.
The couple of thoughts I had: Ohio State went earlier than I thought. I thought maybe the two of you would be scared of their schedule. I was going to jump all over them. The two that no one selected that I could have sworn somebody would have: LSU, just the upside with Lane Kiffin, and maybe you don't like them this year, but I think as a wild card pick, why not? And then Houston Cougars, the other one, was the one that
Yeah.
no one selected.
That's what I thought Jake was going to take for his Kansas State pick. I thought he was going to.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about going the like the Houston route. And I do have Houston rank ahead of Kansas State, but I think Kansas State at the end of the year does finish with a better record than Houston. So that was really what it came down to at the end of the day. Houston's schedule is just a little bit harder. You know, I don't love that they go on the road to play against Texas Tech, and I don't love that they go on the road to play against Utah either. Those are two insanely tough environments in the Big 12. And like the Kansas State and West Virginia is going to be an improved football team as well. I have those as toss-ups as well. So I mean, I would say they have a higher floor than Kansas State. I will admit that, but I mean, Kansas State was my 6th round pick. So I mean, if it doesn't work out, then you know, it is what it is.
I'm curious to see if this question is mainly for Mike. So since Jake took Boise State, was there any other team you're thinking of other than Hawaii? Because I have another G5 team I was at least considering between them and New Mexico as a toss-up for me.
So I was all over Hawaii. I was pretty much locked in on them. The one other that I kind of thought about, San Diego State. So I think the Aztecs, could be a really tough team and one of those down the stretch in the G5 that could be making a run. So I'm just hoping for a fun Pac-12 conference this year. I think San Diego State could be the primary challenger to Boise, and that was the other one I was, was looking at.
Yeah, the other one for me was South Florida. I've talked about it before. I'm really high on Brian Hartline year one. I love the additions they made through the portal, and again, another team that is clear in the production that they bring in compared to the rest of the conference. So I think the Bulls have a real shot in the American, but I think New Mexico has a lot more upside, at least playoff terms, compared to South Florida.
Yeah, because I think at least for New Mexico does have, I believe, multiple like power conference. Well, they have the one power conference opponent to Oklahoma. I know USF doesn't really have that. So what that lends to is that USF wouldn't have any opportunities for signature wins, or at least show they can be competitive. So I know how this committee thinks when it comes to strength of schedule. Yep. I think they would view New Mexico's strength of schedule a little bit higher than USF, even though the American is generally a better conference in the Mountain West, mainly because of that Oklahoma game, which I know was a team that you picked for your your SEC slot. I was actually a little surprised, though, to see Alabama not get taken. Now, I'm probably a little bit higher on Alabama than consensus. I know might be a little bit of a polarizing figure when talking about Kalen DeBoer. I think Kalen DeBoer is doing a good job of replacing Nick Saban, okay? No one is going to replicate the success that Nick Saban had when he was in charge of his program, winning title after title and consistently finishing in the top 5. But you want to look at his 2 years at Alabama, you're talking about they honestly should have made the playoff in year number 1. If SMU would have beat Clemson, Alabama would have been that last team in the playoff. And then you're looking at Alabama playing Penn State in the first round. I mean, that would have been probably a little bit of a closer matchup than the SMU Penn State game. I think, Reed, you can acknowledge that. And then the second year, they were the first teams that actually beat a team on the road in the college football playoff. Year number 1 of this 12-team format. Not only did these road teams not win, I mean, they were generally taken to the woodshed and sent off to greener pastures, so to speak. So they made it to the quarterfinals this year, and I really love their quarterbacks. I know they're inexperienced, but I watched Keon Russell and Austin Mack play, man. Those guys are going to be special. They have incredible arms. I think their run defense in particular is a better run defense unit. So I didn't pick them, but I had Alabama going to the SEC championship game to play against Texas. If I had that wild card slot and Ohio State was off the board, Alabama was going to get some consideration for me there. Ohio State is, that's my number 1 ranked team in the country in post spring. So I had to pick them up.
And the one thing on Alabama, I guess the question I have is offensive line. I think not a lot of experience there. But to your point, so I'm higher on Caitlin DeBoer and Alabama probably than most as well. But naturally have a question. So I was going to avoid them for the draft. But I guess a question for you guys: how ugly will this board look come December time?
I mean, other than the teams on my roster that play each other, I'm going undefeated. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Yeah. What are we talking about?
Yeah. Listen, I mean, it just comes with the territory. Like if you throw out a lot of takes, you're gonna have some bad ones in there. I know I had a take where there was a particular team that I thought was going to be the G6 representative for the college football playoff. But they ended up failing to make a bowl game, and because they did me so dirty, names will not be displayed. Reed knows. They know exactly who I'm talking about. But it's going to happen. I could definitely see Kansas State blowing up in my face. I absolutely could.
Yeah.
Yeah. I picked Kansas State to win the Big 12 last year, so I wasn't touching them this year.
Yeah.
You know what? I had Kansas State going to the Big 12 title game last year. But to be fair, this time last year, it was seen as Russian roulette, and Kansas State looked like one of the safer teams. So, the read, it was the correct read. But
it's the wrong time.
The execution was wrong. So when it comes to Kansas State football, I'm ready to be hurt again. And if they hurt me again, maybe I'll learn a second time, but probably not. A team
that could completely implode my roster, Oklahoma. I mean, I'm fully buying into Mateer returning. That's pretty much a lot of the decision that goes into that pick. So Oklahoma could
I think the run game, I'm optimistic it's going to be better this year.
I agree.
The pressure off John Mateer. I'd like to think Mateer is healthy as well. So you just never know with the schedule. I mean, any SEC schedule is tough. So
yeah, and they now have that 9th conference game. So that's going to make things even harder. Like I talked about it when we were doing our playoff predictions, on the show a couple of weeks ago. But I think, and most folks outside of the SEC are not going to like this. If you dislike the SEC getting the benefit of the doubt, I think it's going to be even worse this year.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, fringe teams.
Yeah, I hate that it's like that. Trust me, I do. I don't like the idea of the possibility of 5 teams from the same conference making a 12-team playoff. I really don't. But just the way how I predicted things, I really think the SEC could get 5 teams in the playoff.
Just wait till we go to 24 teams or 38 teams or whatever we're going to.
No.
10 from each conference.
No. See, yep.
Sorry,
Mike.
Completely against it, by the way.
Mike, you're one and done. Mike, you're one and done on the program. Sorry, my friend. Yeah.
Listen, if we do the FCS format, I could possibly get behind it. But if it's one of those the Big Ten and the SEC, they get 6 auto bids each, and then we forget to, the G6 still has to share an auto bid. That's where I have a problem. But I mean, that's a story for another day. I'm gonna wait till one of these live shows where we could really dive into an hour and a half rant in terms of everything that's wrong with college football, because that's in the that's in the wings. But hey, Mike Moore, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show here tonight. Any final thoughts before we sign off here as a prestigious guest on my humble show?
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Jake. It's I'll say for both of you, I know how much work goes into doing this. You show up every day, putting content out there on Twitter and doing your podcast, and it's not always easy. And certainly it's not always appreciated. So hats off to you guys. Enjoy the work that you do, and it's always great to talk to others that love the sport. So that's just my closing comments. Appreciate you having me.
Reed, you have any final thoughts before we sign you up here tonight as well? Besides the fact that I'm going to be the future champion of this team draft, or
well, aside from that blasphemy that just came out of your mouth, Mike, it's always a pleasure to chat with you, my friend. You're welcome back anytime, as long as the CEO allows you. Also, if you haven't yet and you're watching, go follow this man. He's one of the best college football follows on Twitter right now. That's not a lie. Great content. Throwback Thursday to West Virginia. Wasn't even expecting that today. So I mean, you get that. You get the countdown which is what I look forward to every morning. I open Twitter. I'm looking for Mike's post on how many days left we have until the season. So he's a great follow. Would really appreciate you, my friend. Thank you.
Appreciate
Yeah, and it doesn't matter wherever I'm looking from undisclosed locations, or if I'm like just sitting at work. That's something that I always look forward to as well. So you guys can see his handle like at more like CFP. That's his handle on Twitter. I'm imagining like you got some YouTube action like going on as well. So make sure you show some love for him over there. If I remember, I will have the rest of his stuff like in the description if I actually remember. But hey, in the meantime, this is Jake from College Football Red Zone sign off. Hoping you guys are all out there having a great night. Take care and take it easy, everybody.